Nikki Haley has not been seen very much since her failed presidential bid. She has reemerged this week, though, to scold Trump for his Madison Square Garden rally. Here she is on Fox News explaining why the event was problematic.
I just think that they need to focus primarily on who it is they're talking to. You've got Americans who are absolutely going to vote for Trump. You've got Americans who are absolutely not going to vote for Trump. And then you've got a percentage in the middle who like Trump policies but don't like his style. That is what they need to focus on. So when you look at these things, it has got to be a story of addition. This is not a time to have anyone criticize Puerto Rico or Latinos. This is not a time for them to get overly masculine with this bromance thing that they've got going. 53% of the electorate are women. Women will vote. They care about how they're being talked to, and they care about the issues. They need to remember that. This is a time of discipline, and this is a time of addition. I think it's harmful. I mean, look, there's no reason to have a comedian at an election campaign event that had so much energy and so many good issues. Why have a comedian that separates people? This isn't about people being sensitive. I mean, Puerto Ricans, that's personal for them. They take that personally. So they were right to denounce the comedian. They need to go and tell Puerto Ricans how much, they do value them. They need to tell Latinos that, but they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable.
Oh, shut up, Nikki. So Nikki Haley says twice that the Trump campaign is too masculine. She's worried about the bromance, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. What are you talking about? But she says that it's going to make women uncomfortable. It borders on edgy. It's going to make women uncomfortable. You'll notice that Haley has never and would never say that Kamala's campaign is too feminine and might alienate male voters. The issue, as Haley sees it, is that there's too much masculinity in our politics. The word too, T-O-O, is only ever put in front of the word masculine, not the word feminine. And Nikki Haley doesn't see a problem with that. Now, let me say a couple of things here. First of all, if I go my entire life and I never again hear another person talk about all the things that allegedly make women voters uncomfortable, I will die a happy man. Like, that's been the story of this entire campaign season. Someone says something, and then 1,000 other people rush in frantically and shout, "Shh, don't say that. It'll make women uncomfortable. Think of the women voters. Don't forget about the women voters." Nobody is forgetting about the women voters, okay? We're not they're the only thing anyone talks about. They are the center of every political conversation. We get it. We know. They could not possibly be any more of a focus than they have been, considering that they've been basically the sole focus. So the message has been sent loud and clear. We get it. We get it, Nikki. We understand. Everything we say and do has to appeal to women. It's never okay to do or say anything that might appeal more to men than to women. Women are the center of the world. Women are the only ones who matter. We know. We've heard it. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for offering the same analysis that literally every cable news pundit has been droning on about for the past 6 months incessantly. Very astute, as always. Now, of course, this analysis, I have to say, despite the fact that we hear it so often, doesn't comport with the reality that I live in every day. For one thing, as far as I can tell, men, in fact, do exist. Men also vote. And while there are many problems with our politics in modern America, an abundance of masculinity is most certainly not one of them. And as for women voters, the Nikki Haleys of the world paint them all as these like hypersensitive, superficial, fickle people. According to her, women might see, because this is what she's talking about. She's saying women might see that Trump is the better candidate. They might prefer his policies. They might realize that Kamala will be a bad president who does harm to the country and their children's future. And yet, according to Haley, women might vote for Kamala anyway, actively choosing a worse future for themselves and their families because they're upset by some off-color jokes, because they don't like his style. Now, I don't personally know any women like that. Nikki Haley might be stupid enough to actively choose the destruction of her own country because she's uncomfortable with Donald Trump's style and tone. She might be so upset about a bromance that she decides to vote for a woman who she knows will further devastate the economy, obliterate the Constitution, and start World War III. Maybe that's the way Nikki's mind operates. I don't know. But none of the women in my life think that way. My wife isn't worried about Donald Trump's tone or style. She isn't concerned about jokes or edgy rhetoric. She's worried about the future of the country, just as I am. And that's what's going to inform her vote. Like, I don't think I've ever met a woman who knows that Kamala Harris will be a disaster for the country, but might vote for her anyway or refrain from voting against her because Trump's style and tone upsets her. Like, I've met women who support Kamala Harris. I've met women who support Donald Trump. But this mythical in-between person who supports his policies but may not vote for him because of his personality, I'm not convinced that voter even actually exists. I understand I understand this is conventional logic, conventional wisdom, is that there are millions of voters out there in this category. I don't know. I've never met this person. Have you? Now, maybe I'm wrong. It's more than possible that I'm wrong. Maybe my perception in this case is warped by the fact that I typically surround myself with intelligent, rational people. And so maybe this group does exist in some number out there in reality. Maybe there is this group of people who, again, support Donald Trump's policies, but may not vote for him purely because of their stylistic differences with him and because they don't like his tone and personality. Maybe that does it. Maybe there are a bunch of people out there like that. In that case, let me briefly address anyone who falls into that category, whether you're a woman or a man. If you prefer Trump's policies but are actually considering not voting for him because of his supposed personality defects, all I have to say is this: get over yourself. Like, grow up, okay? I think you've been pandered to and babied enough. If you still haven't snapped out of your stupor, then probably tough love is the only way to get through to you, if it's possible at this point. The future of our country is at stake. We don't have time to worry about tone and personality and style. The only question you should be asking yourself is this: will the candidate that I'm voting for put in place policies that make America a safer and more prosperous country, or a poorer and more dangerous country? That is the only question that matters at this point in the game. If you know that Kamala's policies will make America poorer and more dangerous, then you have to vote against her. It's as simple as that. So here's a thought experiment. Imagine that you're on a plane, 35,000 feet in the sky, cruising altitude, flying over the ocean. Then imagine the captain suddenly dies of a heart attack. And now imagine that this is a long-haul flight and there are two co-pilots in the cockpit. And one of them is a DEI hire who was advanced through flight school despite failing most of the tests. She's never been a captain, plainly unqualified for the job. Meanwhile, the other co-pilot has years of experience in the captain's seat. He has a clear and established record of flying planes through bad weather and turbulent conditions and getting everyone to their destination safely. You're sitting back in the cabin. Who do you want taking over? Which captain would you prefer? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Now, what if the experienced pilot in this analogy also had a history of making offensive comments and posting mean tweets and telling jokes that border on edgy, as Nikki Haley says? Would you, in that case, rather take your chances with the DEI hire? Would you risk crashing into the Atlantic Ocean just for the sake of taking a stand against the better pilot's edgy sense of humor? Now, unless you're literally suicidal, I think you would not. All that matters for a pilot is whether he can safely fly the plane. Now, we know that Trump can. He's already done it. We know that Kamala can't do the job. In fact, in this analogy, the last time she was a co-pilot on a plane, it crashed. You can't put her in charge of the plane. Like, personality isn't going to keep the thing in the sky. Not to mention, her personality is absolutely abysmal anyway. Like, Trump actually has a much better personality if you care about that kind of thing. So Kamala not only will steer us straight into the ground, but we'll have to listen to her cackling the whole way down. So it's the worst of all worlds. And that is why anyone who is actually considering voting for Kamala based purely on tone and personality is today most certainly canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.